There's a concept from the Blank Check podcast that I love, the movie that doesn't exist. A film that technically came out, maybe played a handful of theaters, and then vanished so thoroughly that if you described it, people would assume you made it up. And Harrison's Flowers is one of those movies. So picture this, a war drama starring Andy McDowell, Adrian Brody, David Strathairn, Brendan Gleeson, Elias Koteas, and pre-famed Gerard Butler. You'd assume that that movie has some sort of cult following, or at least a whisper of discourse online. Instead, crickets. And here's the surprise, Harrison's Flowers is actually kind of remarkable. The film follows a photojournalist who goes missing during the Yugoslav wars. Reports claim that he died in a building collapse, and everyone accepts it, except for his wife Sarah, played by Andy McDowell, who becomes singularly convinced that he's alive. And so she does the only logical thing and plunges into a war zone, eventually joining journalists played by Adrian Brody and Brendan Gleeson to search for him in Vukovar. And if you accept that premise, the movie becomes something gripping, a war thriller filtered through love, obsession, and the cost of witnessing horror. And look, I'm a sucker for films about journalists in conflict zones. They exist in that strange space between observer and participant, tasked with documenting humanity at its worst. Movies like The Killing Fields or Under Fire or Lee live in that tension. And Harrison's Flowers belongs in that lineage more than its forgotten status would suggest. Scenes of McDowell, Brody, and Gleeson navigating sniper-ridden roads feel ripped straight out of Wages of Fear, with quiet stretches of dread interrupted by sudden, brutal violence. Some critics dismiss this film as just a love story dressed up as a war film, but I don't see that as a flaw. Brody has a line in this movie. He says, "We should all be so lucky to have someone love us like she loves Harrison." And that sentiment reframes the entire movie. It's not just about war. It's not about cruelty. It's about love clawing its way through devastation. If that's a little earnest, fine. I'll take sincerity over cynicism. The filmmaking is surprisingly modern. It leans into handheld camera work and long, roaming shots through burning streets. At times, it feels like a rough template for what Alfonso Cuarón would do in Children of Men. Some CGI hasn't aged well, but the practical fire and explosions give the film a tactile sense of danger. So why did this film disappear? Timing, probably. It arrived in the US just months after 9/11, and maybe the last thing audiences wanted was a bleak war film driven by grief and stubborn hope. But looking back on it now, it's emotionally raw, visually striking, and its ending lands pretty hard. So no, this is not some lost masterpiece. I don't want to give that impression, but it's far better than its obscurity implies. It's haunting, it's heartfelt, and absolutely worth seeking out.